us. Joining me right now is Chyna Quarker, and I hope I'm saying that name correctly. Please correct me in just a moment, sis. But she is with the Georgia Resilience Opportunity Fund, the GRO Fund, and there she serves as the director of programs over the program called In Her Hands Guaranteed Income Initiative. She's a proud LA native, and she has spent her career working on community-driven initiatives like this. And she is joining us today to talk about the In Her Hands program, this guaranteed income, something that even going as far back as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about universal basic income. Chyna Quarker, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Welcome, and please correct my pronunciation of your name.
Thank you so much. No, you said it right. Chyna Quarker. So that's totally fine.
Chyna Quarker. All right.
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome to the show. Talk to us about the Georgia Resilience Opportunity Fund. What is it? How does it get funded? And does it actually work to give poor people money? Chyna.
Yes. So thank you so much again for having me. In Her Hands is a pillar of the Georgia Resilience and Opportunity Fund, which was built out of a task force that actually started in the old Fourth Ward, which is Dr. King's birth neighborhood, and where he later
Snap.
pastored Ebenezer Baptist Church. And so, as you mentioned, he's talked about guaranteed income plenty of times, and he famously said, the dignity of the individual will flourish when the matters concerning his own life are in his hands, and also when he has the assurance that his income is stable and certain. So, as an ode to Dr. King, we call this program In Her Hands, and we're sort of looking at what it looks like to put, a solution to financial insecurity directly in the hands of women in Georgia. So that's sort of our birth story. It's been a little over 2 years, and we are now in the process of launching our second cohort. And at the end of this, we would have given close to $25 million to 900 women in the state of Georgia.
Okay, let's break this down. What does that look like? Are they getting this money in one lump sum? Is it spread out over time? How do they, and are there any limitations on the money that these women receive?
Yeah, so different than like universal basic income, guaranteed income is just like a monthly direct cash payment that's meant to sort of set as a income floor. So our participants get monthly payments, no strings attached. They are not required to participate in courses or tell us by the dollar how they're spending this money. Instead, we lean on this idea that people are the experts of their own lives and know what they need to survive. They just need the dollars, right? Like, what does it look like to sort of, just give people what they need, let them take care of their basic needs, and then we're able to really see them flourish.
Yeah. It's funny. People often, when they think about these programs, they think welfare queen. Like that's the first thing they think about. And for me, that's weird because I was born and raised I should say I spent a significant portion of my childhood and both in elementary school, birth to elementary, and then later high school, in Germany, because my parents were military, and so we lived there for extended periods of time. And in Germany, when German women and German citizens have children, and German families, I should say, have children, they get something called Kindergeld, which is money for having children. They give you you get like I think a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I can't remember how much it is now, maternity leave and a gradual return to employment. And it's only considered welfare queenery when we're giving it to the blacks. But as we all heard at the intro, Jasmine Crockett is talking about all of these states that are taking money that they voted against. We understand what it is to see European nations provide this sort of financial support. It only becomes an issue when it's for us. So I just wanted to say that and put that to the side. But what do you have any insight on what the women are spending this money on? How are they investing it? Do you have any of that data that can help us see what the overall impact is, not just for their families, but the surrounding community?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually just released our first year findings, and are looking, of course, at what people are spending their dollars on, but what is the actual impact of these dollars? That is the $1 million question. So, of course, we're seeing, greater financial resilience. People are able to sort of pay their rent on time, fewer evictions, greater ability to just afford their basic needs. We're also seeing overall wellness in terms of mental health and physical health. My favorite thing to sort of come out of this has been that women are actually experiencing 4 healthier days a month. So over the course of the year, that's
Wow.
a month and a half where they are just feeling well, right? When we talk about poverty, we don't often talk about, the toll that it has on the body and the psyche and how it's affecting
Yeah.
our community specifically when it comes to mental health concerns and what have you. But perhaps, my favorite sort of outcome that we've seen so far is higher goal attainment. So we've seen women go back to school, have greater education enrollment, but most importantly, reach into entrepreneurship. They're starting small businesses. They are, going and really getting that job that they really wanted. We have a participant in particular named Shamara who, when she joined our program, she was housing insecure, and always had a dream of wanting to be a teacher. So she used these dollars to join AmeriCorps, and most recently
What?
is about to be a teacher with Teach for America. So it's like it's less about are they spending the money on this or that, but like how is it actually changing their lives, and in that way having a trickling effect to their families and their children. Shamara's children, who now has a mother who is able to make ends meet.
Wow. So it's not that they're going to be getting. I mean, can we do a round of applause, like a pew pew pew, like an air horn? 'Cause I feel like all of that is like pew 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 pew. Like yes, because that to me feels like when I'm not on these airwaves, I run a law center, a racial justice law center in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm constantly, as the ED, doing the fundraising. I used to be a lawyer, now I'm a fundraiser, and I'm constantly out there trying to get the money, and so the permanency of funding is always something that's a concern for me. But this is not a program of permanent funding, as I understand it. It's a limited amount of time. Is that true?
Yes. So our program is completely privately funded. We don't get any dollars from the federal or local government. And so we do
Wow.
it in cohorts and in phases. And so as we raise money, we're able to go to another community and be able to start up a new cohort. So our first cohort
Mm.
was around 650 women. And we focused on an urban site, a suburban site, and are actually one of the first guaranteed income programs to be able to encompass a rural site, because we know that there is need there as well. So our goal is to just continue to be able to have additional cohorts, but of course, like be able to use these learnings to inform a federal guaranteed income, to inform, sort of what it looks like to say, okay, guaranteed income is not sort of the like panacea to all of the
Right.
issues that we're seeing, but instead,
Sure.
this is one part of the ecosystem. And so if we have folks, getting their income, what does it look like to now talk about why expenses are the way that they are? Or how can we
Mm.
keep people in their housing? How can we ensure that our, public infrastructure is what it is so people can get to work? So it's just one sort of pillar of a larger conversation of how we really just improve people's lives.
That's amazing. Do we have any data on what happens to the women once they're no longer receiving the funds? Do we find that they're falling back into poverty? What is the status for the women who are completing their cohort, and what do their economic prospects look like?
Yes, so we are actually in the process of completing our first cohort. So we will be
Okay.
able to sort of have some of those findings as we move on and as we follow some of the women as they conclude their guaranteed income process. But we have a robust sort of offboarding program. So what we are offering,
Mm.
it's 100% consent based. The women aren't required to come, but we have community partners and organizations coming to say, hey, we understand that you are not going to be getting these guaranteed income dollars anymore, but we know that you've saved some money. So here's what we can do in terms of housing stability. Here's some resources for certifications, etc. And then we also have monthly optional programming. So our goal is not to say that people need to be a part of programs or need to, sell their limb to be able to get these dollars, but instead offering it on a consent basis and letting the women sort of take what they need. So that way it's dollars plus access to stuff in their community. They don't have to go to, Albuquerque to get services that they need in Georgia. Like they are able to
Right.
walk around their neighborhood and get access to things that often they don't even know exist.
That is phenomenal. I'm going back to even this point about the increased wellness. I saw an article recently that's starting to make the rounds about how a lot of the autoimmune diseases that Black women face, and the fact that we are so overrepresented with autoimmune diseases, is like that is the natural outcome of unreleased stress and burden. And considering the fact that if there's going to be a single parent household, 8 times out of 10, it's going to be a woman who stays, because that's just sort of how our society is structured. A lot of what we're seeing in terms of the deterioration of our health as women is a really big issue. But that also raises for me the fact that it's not only women who are heads of household in the single parent space. And is there any program like this for men? Do you have a male component? And if not, why focus solely on women?
Yeah, so we are completely focused on women, and I think it
Wait a
raises.
minute. Hold on. Wait, stop. I just need to point out for the audience. You see how she didn't deflect? She wasn't like, well, she's like, no, we completely focused on who we focused on. Like, that's who we focused on. And there was no apology about it. I just had to point that out because I'm in a space where I want to encourage people to be speaking with their full chest. And the way you just did that was like, because she didn't even blink. Y'all will see this on the video. She didn't blink at all. But okay, you focus solely on women. Why? And what is your response to people who say, well, what about the brothers?
Yeah, and listen, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about this is not going to be the one size fit all sort of response to everything that we need. But when we talk about what's happening in Georgia specifically, the data sort of informs what we already know, that Black people, specifically Black women, are facing disproportionate structural barriers to economic security. That is not a secret. We can do a quick Google and give everyone the stats, but that is what it is. And what we also know is that, again, based on the data, when Black women thrive, so do the communities. In Georgia specifically, Black women have the largest labor force amongst women in this country. And so, especially compared to their counterparts. So what that's saying is like, work alone isn't enough. They are contributing to the workforce, but the income is not matching the cost of living. So it's really important for us to focus on really who is experiencing the largest sort of instability. And I also often think about this as like, you have that woman that is on the corner in your neighborhood who always has taken care of the full community. Miss Ann's house at the end of the corner. That's who you
We
go
got
to.
Miss Daphne and Miss Chambers.
Yes,
On our block.
exactly.
Yep.
And so, and when I was growing up, that was my godmother. That was, sort of the person on the street. And so, it says something to go into these communities and support the folks who we know are really holding the communities together. And we don't want to shy away from that. We want to be transparent, and really the data agrees.
I love that, because it's not just something you're intuiting. There's data to support it, and we've had Higher Heights for America, a political organization or an organization that helps to empower Black women in political spaces. When they first would come on the show, they come on regularly. We would get a lot of calls. Well, why you ain't got nothing for the brothers? And I'll be like, well, if they're Higher Heights and they created that for Black women, you a brother. Why don't you create deeper depths and do something similar for the brothers? So I appreciate your ability to very concretely explain the why, so that people are clear. This is not about being anti anything. It's about following the data and investing the money in a way that is going to produce the greatest return on investment for the entire community. Because what we do know is that when Black women are in positions where they are caring for the family or for the community, everyone gets what everyone can get. They may not all get all of their needs met, but the distribution of resources is going to be done in such a way that it is designed to enhance the lives of the many, not just the lives of the few. And I don't know what the data says about how male identified people do with their distribution of dollars, but we know that when female identified people in the Black community are distributing dollars, that they do so in those ways. So you mentioned that none of this is government money. This is all private money, which means you need donations. Am I right? Are y'all fully self-funded? Do you have an endowment that you don't need donations? Talk to us about your acquisition of additional dollars to allow you to expand into additional cohorts.
Yeah, we are 100% privately funded, and a huge shout
Mm,
out to our executive director, Hope Sack, who has really led our fundraising efforts. And we are largely dependent on that to be able to launch additional cohorts. This last cohort specifically, which is launching on the west side of Atlanta, was largely funded by the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation. And so we're
wow.
looking, specifically for donors of that nature to say, here are these dollars, sort of unrestricted, because we believe in this work. And
Mm,
what we know is that this really should be something that our cities and our counties are investing in, but it has to be no strings attached. Like often when things go into city and local government, they say, okay, well, we want to ensure that they have financial literacy classes or that they are participating in the workforce. And it's like, I don't know about you all, but you can't sort of like budget your way out of poverty. Like it does
mm.
not matter how many $20 bills
Yeah,
you put under the mattress. If the cost of living and expenses continue to rise, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. So
right.
I'm so
Especially when
like,
your wages are not rising in
exactly.
comparable ways. So if your wages aren't going to be tied to the increase in cost of living, then you could budget from here to the cows come home. You're
Okay.
going to be
Yep.
homeless with no food and no vegetables, and you and your kids going to be a part of the system, dependent on government, simply because you did not have the infrastructure, the economic infrastructure for you to
Yeah.
thrive and do otherwise.
Yeah.
Mm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Chyna, I hope you can come back and speak with us more. I'm really interested in what the findings are for the women once they are removed from the cohort. I think this is something we should all be following very, very closely. These sorts of moves have been really exciting for a lot of people. We had in the 2020 presidential election. I was not necessarily rooting for this particular candidate, but Andrew Yang talked a lot about similar programs, universal basic income, and people initially thought, "Oh, that's ridiculous, that's foolish." And I was like, "Well, no, no, that makes sense. Martin Luther King Jr. been talking about that. Like this is not something new." And so the fact that your organization has been able to put some real teeth to this program is phenomenal. What support do you need from broader community? Is there a role for the local Atlanta community? And I mean, this is a nationwide, hell, this is an international show because people be listening on the app from all over the damn place. But is there a role for the community to play to either amplify the information about what you're doing, to donate to the fund? Like, what is the role for community in supporting this work and protecting it in an Ujima sort of approach?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's both of the things that you mentioned. I think specifically what I really want is for guaranteed income and this concept of supporting those who really need it the most to become a household conversation. Just like the
Mm.
concept of the welfare queen, let's talk about the concept of guaranteed income. And let's
Yeah.
really, empower and inform our communities to not look at this in a conversation around deservedness and this idea that people have to sort of pull themselves up from their bootstraps in order to have a meal on the table. So really getting public will surrounding this work is really like what is going to take it to the next level. Of course, we love donations. There is a
Come
link on
on.
our website to give some dollars. But most importantly, what we've seen obviously across this country is a lot of attacks on guaranteed income, a lot of attacks on really DEI and initiatives that are, formulated to really support people who have been consistently disenfranchised. And so, that came out of course, the racial reckoning in 2020. But what we need is that community push, right? Like what we saw in 2020 was everyone coming together and saying, we're not going to do this anymore. We are not happy with sort of the status quo. So the GRO Fund and In Her Hands, we are trying to disrupt that status quo, and we need the community behind us.
What's the website? Where can people go to find you to donate? The man is about to cut us off because they
Oh,
got they got
okay.
bills
Okay.
around here. What's the best website for people to learn more about this program?
Yes, you can find us at thegrowfund.org. That's GRO fund.org. It is the same handle for Instagram. So yeah, follow us and yeah, keep up with what we're doing. And as we are launching additional cohorts, that information will also be posted on those sites.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us. I can't wait till you come back so we can talk about the findings. I want to meet folks in the new cohort, or at least learn about their stories. This is absolutely thrilling. And as somebody who grew up dealing with a whole lot of food stamps, and I'm old enough to have had the food stamps that were the different monopoly colored looking paper that your mama had to pull out the coupon book, and you was praying that wasn't nobody behind you from your school gonna see. And because we ain't had the fancy EBT cards that y'all got right now. So as somebody who has that in my experience, this is absolutely phenomenal. I know that my family would have greatly benefited from something like this. And so good on you. Congratulations on a really successful launch of your first cohort and this transition into the second one. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from you guys.